Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I just want to start this video off by saying thank you to everyone who watched and liked, and even a few people who subscribed after my deck profile. That was an awesome response to the last video. I was not expecting that, you know. I'm definitely a smaller channel, so it's cool to, you know, even get a few hundred views. That's incredible. Thank you guys, I really appreciate that. So since the last video did so well, I decided to go ahead and save a few more replays of, I thought, some decent, or in a few cases pretty good, games that I have played while laddering. I haven't laddered too much tonight. You can see I'm actually still at Platinum 3. I've kind of just been going back and forth on Platinum 3. I think I'm like 2 wins away from Platinum 2 right now, so definitely still on the road to Platinum 1. But I have a few games that I wanted to share, like I said, not only because I thought they were good games to share to showcase the Zoodiac, I guess you could call it that, the Tri-Brigade Zoodiac deck, the Zoodiac deck, but also, again, because I wanted to, share more content, since, like I said, that was an awesome response to the first video I did there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right back into it. I've got 5 games lined up for us. We'll go ahead and start with this one here. This, I believe, is my game against Drytron, which I know was the last video I believe I showed or the last duel I showed in the last video, but this is a different one here. I really like this background of my opponents, by the way. I might actually get this one at some point. So you can see we're going second, but we opened a really good going second hand. We've got Ash Blossom and Imperm. Opponent's going to start off with Diviner, just like last time we played against Drytron. We're going to want to go ahead and negate that Diviner so they can't send the Heralds from the extra deck and set up their ritual plays. Now they're also going to use the Drytron Delta, this thing. I'm still, I'm not super familiar with a lot of the meta decks that I'm not playing, Drytron being one of them, although I'm getting a little bit more familiar with kind of how Drytron wants to set up its combos. So if they're going to add another Diviner, which is totally fine by me, they aren't going to be able to do anything else because they couldn't special summon the Drytron since we ashed them. This is a pretty good hand from us here. We've got Fractal, Ram, and some Pot of Desires. We're definitely going to want to go ahead and start getting our Fractal combo off before we Pot of Desires. That actually kind of depends on the situation, right? Whether you want to start comboing or play Desires first. If my opponent had set like 1 or 2 back row, I might be more inclined to Desires to try to get Lightning Storm or Harpy's Feather Duster before going into my plays. There is a bit of a risk in that though, because you do risk milling. Occasionally you will mill 3 copies of an essential combo piece. I believe actually one of the I don't remember if it's one of the duels I saved or it's just one of the last duels I just had, but I do have a duel, or did have a duel tonight where I played Desires first in an attempt to get around some back row, and I ended up banishing all 3 of my kits, which definitely severely hampered my combos, and you know what? I remember that was actually one of my losses that did end up costing me the game. Back to this duel though, you can see we're going into a fairly standard, this isn't really standard, but we're going to go into a huge Zeus. Since our opponent stopped our Zoodiac plays there, or rather our Tri-Brigade plays, we're going to fall back on the Zoodiac engine. We have a 6 material Zeus, thanks to the Whiptail, and also because, like I mentioned in the deck profile, I am using an extra Zoodiac Exceed monster, and this is one of the scenarios. Again, it's relatively niche, but this is one of these scenarios where the extra Zoodiac Exceed monster definitely comes in handy. I did give a little more thought to possibly playing the Ancient Warrior's Oath, the Link monster, but the thing is, like, the uses for that are a little bit niche as well. You kind of have to have, I don't want to call it a win more card, because it's not necessarily a win more card, but it's typically better when you're already ahead, whereas I kind of like having the option to make a Zeus with lots of materials like this, because this is definitely better in a going second kind of playstyle, which is honestly a lot of the reason why I gravitated towards the Zoodiac version of Tri-Brigade as opposed to the Leerlusk. I've actually been collecting Leerlusk cards from the secret pack, and I think I'm only one Recital, I think is its name. I'm one of those away from finishing the extra deck for that, but one of the reasons I do like the Zoodiac variant over the Leerlusk one is that you're not as reliant as comboing, which means you're not as reliant on, you're not as weak to being disrupted. you can kind of play going second or first, and even if you fall into like a hand trap or your opponent max sees you, you can still kind of play out of it, whereas it's harder, I think, to do that with the Lyrilisk build. To be fair, I've only watched people play the Lyrilisk build. I've never actually tried it myself yet, although like I said, I am working on that, and once I am satisfied with my performance with the Zoodiac variant, I might go ahead and start practicing the Lyrilisk variant, and who knows, maybe I'll make some videos of that one as well. Okay, so in this replay we're going first. You see, we actually did open with Desires there, but the reason I was able, or a little more comfortable doing that, is that I already had Revolt in hand, and really, turn 1, my main concern with Desires is banishing all 3 of my Revolts, which has happened to me before, and definitely hampers basically the rest of the duel. So, just like I was saying earlier, you know, we ran into an Imperm, right, but we were still able to make an Appalachia play despite that, which is, again, like I was just explaining, one of the reasons I really like the Zoodiac variant of Tri-Brigade, as opposed to Lyrilisk one. Again, I haven't tried the Lyrilisk one myself yet, but I do like the ability to play as not only more controlling, but also being able to play through our opponent's hand traps and even occasionally back row. Although back row is a little harder to play through, which is why we're playing the Harpy's Feather Duster and the Lightning Storm. Our opponent appears to be playing Altergeist, but it doesn't seem like they got a very good hand. This game was a little one-sided. Honestly, the main reason I included it was to not only show that we can play through a hand trap very easily in this deck, but also I hadn't showed off an Appalachia combo just yet, and I wanted to get one of those in. I am still planning, I think, on making a dedicated combo video. That'll likely be the next one after this. I just kind of gotta figure out how I want to edit that to be a little bit more concise, as opposed to these more free-form videos of us watching replays. Man, you can see at this point I'm pretty much just bullying this poor Altergeist player, and I think they're even gonna concede once I banish their thing. So, that was easy and quick game there. Let's see, we're gonna go up to this one. I'm trying to remember which one this is, actually. I know what the loss is. You might notice, yeah, I actually did include a replay where I lost. You might also notice how many turns it was. It was actually a fairly back and forth duel, which is why I included it. Ah, yes, I remember this one. Okay, we're going second here. We don't have any hand traps, but we did open a Lightning Storm. And our opponent's actually playing Code Talkers. This is actually the first time I've ever played against like a Cyber's Code Talker deck. So I was kind of interested to see what kind of a board they were going to generate without me. You know, it's funny, like most people, or some people might open a hand without any hand traps and be like, oh man, my opponent's going to combo off. But when I saw it was Code Talkers, I was almost a little glad I didn't open any hand traps, because I'm like, okay, I want to see what this deck actually does. Yeah, I would be talking a bit more about my opponent's plays. They did get a Cyber Conflict, which is an interesting counter trap that, if they have a Code Talker, can negate pretty much anything. It's kind of like Infernity Barrier for other people who might be familiar with like 2011 Infernity. Or I guess, was Barrier banned when Infernities were big in 2014? I think it was actually at 1 at that point. Yeah, our opponent's going to play this Transcode Talker, which I read this card like 3 different times to make sure it didn't have like some kind of, you know, protection against Omen or possibly Drytron. Because like I said, I am relatively recently getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! You see, we did have the Lightning Storm to force our opponent's Signet Conflict, which this card I did read once my opponent searched it, so yeah, we definitely went to Lightning Storm first. Now, this was actually an interesting game to play because my opponent still had 2 back row, and as you can see, I didn't really have any other way to deal with it. So, obviously the replay is going by at replay speed, but it was kind of funny in real time. I was playing this game very, very cautiously, and I was very careful about which plays I was making and which monsters I was willing to commit to the board. Like, every single one of these plays, I'm just waiting for my opponent to flip one of these back row cards. But as I get more and more into the combo, you get a little bit more and more confident that our opponent's not going to have anything to stop us, because I feel like, you know, if they were going to stop like a special summon, they probably would have done it at this point. An interesting note I'll say too, I did actually consider recording myself playing games live, because I've done that with other card games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra, right? The thing is though, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there's so much more to mentally keep track of. Okay, our opponent does actually flip one of the back row, which is Compulsory Evacuation Device, which is a little annoying, but overall fine. But yeah, with Yu-Gi-Oh! There's like so much more to consider and so much more to think about with the duels that I particularly have a hard time speaking while trying to think about that many plays, that many like different branching plays that are possible. So that's why I'm going through replays with this game in particular, as opposed to again other card games I've played in the past where I record myself live. I might end up doing that, or who knows, maybe even someday I might end up streaming this. If that's something you'd like to see, feel free to let me know, and I will definitely consider it. So we're going to go into our next game here, which again is going to be our loss. This game I remember well. It was against Eldlich Stun, which is, in my opinion, rather I should say in my experience, which is relatively limited, but in my experience, it's one of the tougher decks to play against, especially if you end up going second, which I think we do here. Yeah, we do. Yeah, if we had gone first, we do have the kit, so we would have been able to make plays, which is a bit unfortunate. We're going to Maxi in response to this Elixir, because it's just about one of the only opportunities we're going to get to use our Maxi in this matchup. And our opponent's going to summon Eldlich the Golden Lord, which is a very annoying card. I'm a little sick of seeing it at this point. It's funny, when I used to play the game in real life, I actually tended to play more Sun decks. So when I was getting into Master Duel here, and I was texting one of my friends I used to play with, they kind of recommended Eldlich to me because I played a lot of stun decks. Like Cliff Forts, I played Evil Swarm, I played Hero Beat when that was a thing. But I don't know, I just kind of fell into playing, well, the reason I kind of fell into playing Tri-Brigades in particular was that I invested heavily my gems into, what is the name of the pack? The one that's got the staples, that's not as many cards. That's definitely, if you're looking for a pack to invest in early game, I highly recommend that one. Yeah, after I dumped a bunch of gems into it, I ended up pulling a playset of Omen. Like, I pulled all three. And then, you know, I've been keeping up with Yu-Gi-Oh! These past few years, even though I haven't been playing it, so I did recognize the name Tri-Brigade, and I read Omen, and I was like, well, this seems like a powerful card. And then I saw, you know, the rest of the Tri-Brigade engine didn't require very many more investments in terms of ultra-rare crafting points, so I thought, you know what, cool, I'll just go ahead and make this meta deck, and I've been enjoying it a lot. Now, our opponent did actually make a misplay that I forgot to point out with Ancient Spell Fragrance. They chained it in response to Tenki when they probably should have flipped it during my standby phase, because if you activate Anti-Spell Fragrance in response to a spell already activating, that spell is going to resolve, it's not going to set it. Anti-Spell Fragrance only forces your opponent to set spells from their hand. Again, if being used in response to an activated spell, it will not force that spell face down, like my opponent may have thought was the case. So yeah, you can see here I'm setting my Ash Blossoms to just not take damage. I'm just waiting for, at this point, only Harpy's Feather Duster. Unfortunately, because I have Tenki face up, Lightning Storm is on and out. I do actually end up ripping the Feather Duster off the top of the deck though. I am actually kind of considering taking out maybe one or possibly both of the Lightning Storms and putting Twin Twisters back in, specifically because of Tenki. In this duel, I mean, I fortunately drew the Feather Duster, but, you know, had I drawn Lightning Storm, that would have been a dead card. There was one other duel where it also kind of came up. I don't think, if I remember the duel right, it didn't end up mattering in the end, but there was a situation where I wanted to activate Lightning Storm, but couldn't because I had a face-up Tenki. Now, if we end up going to a TCG ban list and Tenki goes to 1, then I'm not really as concerned, because they won't come up as often. So with our current ban list, with the TCG, where again Tenki is at 1, I would be totally fine playing Lightning Storm. But again, this is kind of in this niche Duel Masters format. I am actually thinking that Twin Twisters might be better than the 2 Lightning Storms. But I'm keeping the Lightning Storms in for now, just because I like the versatility of being able to use it as like a Raigeki when you need to as well. So, but if it comes up in more scenarios, it's definitely possible we could think about including Twin Twisters back in. The other advantage that Twin Twisters in particular has is that you can set it and flip it during your opponent's end phase, which Lightning Storm you cannot do. You can see we actually ended up flipping our Feather Duster and resolving it successfully, so we're kind of having like a little comeback here, except, I played right into Nibiru. This is actually only the second time I've ever gotten Nibiru'd, and had I played better, I honestly could have probably won this duel, had I not just played straight into Nibiru. But this is actually another reason that I wanted to showcase this duel in particular, was to show that, you know, it's entirely possible to get a little overconfident in situations like this and misplay. You know, there's this temptation, right, to only include my wins where I played flawlessly, but I kind of wanted to show a more human angle of my replays as well. And you know what, like, I'll show a replay where I lost, because it was a good back and forth duel, even if that loss was, again, because of a misplay. What was I saying right before that? Oh yeah, no, this is only the second time I've gotten Nibiru. This is me kind of trying to justify my misplay. I mean, I can't justify it at all. I was not thinking about Nibiru at all when I was making my little comeback play there. I'm trying to remember what other deck I played against where I got Nibiru. I actually remember winning that game because I remember it, like, swinging for a game with the Nibiru token, which I kind of was hoping, or I kind of hoped was going to happen here. I think it was against Sky Striker, now that I think about it. Was it? I'm pretty sure it was Sky Striker was the other deck I was playing against where they dropped a Nibiru on me. I don't even know actually if I'm even saying that card's name right. Wait, I banished it, so it's going to be in here. Yeah, Nibiru. Okay, Nibiru the Primal Being. I still actually have my 60 Ultra Crafting points that I'm still not sure what I want to do with, and 2 Nibiru is something that I am considering for this deck. Because this is still the build that I showed off in the deck profile, where we're playing 2 Whiptail as well as 2 of the Rams, which is definitely not necessary. You only need like one of each of those and then 1 Thoroughblade. That's about all the Zoodiac monsters you need. So here I was getting a little bit hopeful. I was like, oh, maybe, just maybe I can. But then I remembered, oh yeah, my opponent searched this Eldlich trap, which is going to let them special summon their Golden Lord. And then, yep, this one is going to summon itself as a monster and then destroy a monster in the field, which is pretty much just going to seal my fate. Eldlich is probably my least favorite deck to play against, to be honest. It's rather annoying. I understand all the people who complained when they played against me when I would play stun decks back in the day, but you know, stun decks are a viable way to play, and I said that back then, and even though I'm on the other side of the table now, I'll still say it now, you know. It's a viable strategy, even if it is a little unpopular with some people. So we do have, I feel a little bad I didn't talk more about that duel itself, but yeah, you know, it's fun. Alright, we got one more duel I want to show off here. This was the most recent one. You'd think I'd remember which one it is, but I'm sure I'll remember as soon as I, like, see the first turn or even the opening hand here. Ah, yes, this is like the ultimate going second hand. Oh yeah, and this is my first experience against, like, the Phantom Knight deck, which is why I kept this duel here. Actually, no, I won't lie, the main reason is because I actually got to go second with, like, the perfect going second hand. It's hard to argue against having Maxi, Ash Blossom, and Imperm. So yeah, you can see I'm just kind of, at this point, oh, you know what? I make a misplay here. I remember this part. I Imperm the Cherubini, not realizing that the mill is a cost, which is probably why this card is so good. All I really negated was the attack gain. So that is an unfortunate misplay, but at least we have the Maxi. And at this point I'm kind of thinking to myself, who knows, maybe even with all these draws I can, like, bail myself out and draw another Imperm. Oh look, that's literally exactly what happened. So I will admit that I definitely luck-sacked out of this misplay, but you know, that happens from time to time, and you can see I made other misplays earlier that I do not luck-sack my way out of. So, you know, again with these replays, I want to show a real Yu-Gi-Oh experience. You know, I don't want to show like a manufactured one where I only play perfectly. Those games are always boring to watch on replays anyway, because half the time you just like play out a perfect turn one, quote-unquote perfect. I mean, obviously there's variance to any turn one play, but you play out a really, really good turn one and then your opponent just scoops, or like, you know, your opponent makes a decent play and then you banish their monster with Omen and then they just scoop, or you just like flip revolt and they just scoop. Those aren't fun to watch. I kind of like decks like their games like this, which, it's funny, I looked down just back in my hand just now and I forgot just how many cards my opponent allowed me to draw off this Max C. It's interesting playing decks like this, right, when you're playing in a Max C, trying to figure out how much, because there does kind of reach a certain point where, like, it sucks that you kind of can't make plays, but when you're letting your opponent draw as many cards as I've drawn here, that's a bit too much, I think. I guess it also varies from deck to deck too, but this again is another reason why I like the Zoodiac variant of Tri-Brigade so much, is just because like in one of the duels that I showed in the deck profile video, we made an access code talker off of 2 special summons. Like, you can make your major plays without having to commit at all. You know, your standard fractal into, what's this guy's name? Is it Rugal? Your standard fractal into Rugal play only uses 1 special summon and it lets you set up the revolt. It's kind of neat how you're able to like space apart. Hey, speaking of access code talker, yeah, but it's nice how you're able to space apart your plays. Like, you can stagger like half of your big combo for the current turn and set up the revolt, which on your opponent's turn you can flip the revolt, and essentially, even though revolt is only 1 card, you essentially get to combo because you get like the mill off of Kit, the search off of Nerval, the banish off of Omen. It's just a very, very powerful deck because of the versatility and the different amount of ways you can play it. So yeah, this is like definitely overkill at this point. I mean, we've already got the access code talker, but we're gonna go for the Drytron into the Zeus, and I think we're even gonna make another Omen on this turn too. Or no, it looks like we make the other Omen next turn. But again, at this point, we pretty much have it. Our opponent's more or less just top decking, and we have a lot of cards in hand. Although our deck is pretty thin at this point, isn't it? Like, yeah, it's only 10 cards right now, but you can see I actually kind of miscounted. I thought I was going to get 6 materials, but I only ended up with 5. I maxed seed in response to this Fogblade because our deck is running low, and I didn't want to end up maxing on my opponent's turn and then being able to summon enough to deck me out. Our opponent's going to get back their Phantom Knights, Link Monster, the thing won't scroll, Phantom Knights of Rusty, Blanche, that's right, Blanche, something like that, Bardish, that's it. But yeah, nope, they're going to be able to get that back, which we definitely don't want them to be Xyz summoning and popping one of our cards, so I'm just going to go ahead and Link Summon into my second Omen and get rid of it now. This is also just a way to use up the Revolt, you know, as opposed to just letting it sit dead. They set the rank up spell too, which I don't know. Again, this is the first time I've ever played against this deck, so I wasn't sure if that 1 card left in hand was going to let them exceed and then rank up, but it doesn't look like that was the case. Alright, well that is going to do it for now. Those are all the replays that I've got stocked up at the moment. And yeah, like I said, the next video will likely be a combo sort of tutorial video with Tri-Brigade Zoodiac. Just kind of showcasing all the different combos you can do with variants or with varying opening hands. And I'll even, again, I just gotta figure out how I'm gonna edit this, because I would like to also show ways that you can combo even if you get hit with like a hand trap or something. I think that'd be pretty interesting to do. But again, I just gotta figure out how I'm gonna edit to possibly show that efficiently. But in any case, thank you very much for watching. I very, very much appreciate it. And yeah, with the way the first video went, I definitely foresee more Master Duel videos in the future. So if you want to see some more, you know, stick around. I'd appreciate that. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. In any case, this is Hexlex signing out. Have a good one.